Said to be comparable to the ancient weapons, the Marines' trump card, the Dynastones, have suddenly been stolen, and the terrifyingly powerful man responsible, former Marine Admiral Zed, stands in the path of the Straw Hat Pirates. The Marine headquarters finally moves forward to deal with the conspiracy that threatens to shake the very pillars of the New World. Finally, Luffy and his crew move to take a stand against Zed and his incredible power. Welcome to Film Friday. Released in 2012, One Piece film Zed is quite possibly the best One Piece film ever made. Although first and foremost, I need to correct an error that I made at the end of the last video reviewing Strong World. There, I stated that Film Zed was the second film to be written by Akira Oda, but that's not true at all. Film Zed was written by Osamu Suzuki, but it was directly overseen by Oda, and that influence is on full display here. Film Zed is an ambitious project featuring a story with a whole world of One Piece characters, both old and new, as well as several brand new islands and the fate of the entire new world in the balance. And at the helm of all of this is by far the best movie villain we have ever seen in Black Arm Zephyr. This guy is a former Marine Admiral who became disgruntled with the Marines and formed his own organization to deal out justice across the seas. His design is beyond awesome and exudes power in a way that no other movie villain has done before or since. But there's a lot more to Zed than just looking intimidating. He actually has quite a bit of depth to him, and his plan isn't simply evil for the sake of evil. He is desperately trying to end the terror of piracy by destroying the One Piece itself, figuring that without the legendary treasure to chase, pirates will cease to exist. And of course he, like the rest of the world, has no idea where to find it, so hey, let's just blow up the entirety of the New World instead, yeah? Sounds good. He is a singularly focused individual, trying to conduct justice for the betterment of the world in his own way. However, he is willing to kill countless innocent civilians to do so. With that said, the more you find out about Zed's past, the more you come to sympathize with him. And honestly, by the end of the film, where you see him as a young boy and find out that all he ever wanted was to be a hero of justice, that just makes me legitimately tear up every single time. Unfortunately, Zed's immediate subordinates don't quite have the same level of depth present, and their entire characterization is summed up in the first few minutes of the film, where they both state that their only wish in life is to follow Zed. However, I will say that these two characters are a huge improvement on Dr. Indigo and Scarlet, who were Shiki's two lackeys in Strong World, so good on them for that. Although the true villains of this film are really the world government and the Marines, who are incredibly present throughout. Just about every major Marine we've seen in the series makes an appearance in Film Zed, even if most of them don't have any dialogue. And this extensive cast is one of many factors that makes One Piece Film Zed a real love letter to the longtime fans of the series, whereas the previous entry Strong World seemed to be more of a feature designed for people who had never entered the world of One Piece before. In contrast, Film Zed is an unforgiving bombardment of characters, techniques, and concepts, most of which go without explanation. For example, in the film, Aokiji is referred to as both Aokiji and Kuzan. Same with Kizaru actually, who is also referred to as Borsalino. Now, new fans would have no idea why these characters have two names, and the film does not go into detail explaining it. Not that that's a bad thing at all. And there's a whole ton of other moments like that as well. For example, at one stage a random marine uses Tekkai, one of the Rokushiki techniques. Also, Luffy and Zoro subtly demonstrate observation haki without it being pointed out. And then there's the whole idea of Sea Prism Stone in general, which doesn't really get an explanation, and actually the fact that a whole legion of pacifistas appear towards the end of the film would be quite confusing to new fans. But for most seasoned fans, this is definitely the movie we've been waiting for. Finally, a feature that makes decent use of the extended cast in the series. But of course, that's nothing without making good use of the Straw Hats themselves, and I'm thrilled to say that they are all handled wonderfully yet again. Just as in Strong World, they feel like a true team, rather than having some feel like tag-along characters. Pretty much each and every one of them have their own glorious moments in the film, with the exception of maybe Nami. She, along with Chopper, Robin, and Brooke, get hit early on by a devil fruit power that makes them all 12 years younger, so Nami, rather unfortunately, spends most of the film as a child. She uses this to her advantage as best she can, but it really does feel a shame to have such a prominent Straw Hat regress to the point of being near useless. Then again, she did have a massive role in the last film, so maybe it's not a bad thing for her to be taking a bit of a back seat in this one. In terms of story, it is deceptively simple. The antagonist Zed is just trying to destroy the entire new world by blowing up a series of endpoints. Everything else in the film is driven purely by characters and their interactions, so it really doesn't need an overly complicated plot. And that is fantastic, because the more I think about the plot, the more I kind of take issue with it. I do find it slightly unbelievable that these endpoints exist at all, and if they did, surely they would be under incredible guard by the Marines and the world government. Instead, these integral locations in the new world are completely out in the open and unguarded. Hell, one even has a hot spring resort built on it. But if you don't think about it too deeply, then it's fine, I guess. The other gripe I have is that despite visiting a multitude of different islands in the film, none of them really stand out or are memorable in any way, which is very much the opposite of One Piece as we know it, especially in the New World era. In the actual series, the islands emanate as much character as the actual characters. But in this film, they are really just a blank canvas for the characters to play against. And once again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. With so many characters to service in such a short amount of time, perhaps it's best that they aren't in competition with loud, unique islands. As for animation, there isn't a second of this film that does not look stunning. The fight scenes are especially well done, with the highlights definitely being Sanji and Zoro's final fights. I also really enjoyed Kizaru's battle against Zed right at the beginning. It's a spectacle that really stands up and tells the audience that this is going to be a great feature, so buckle up and enjoy. But what I enjoyed most of all is the fact that Luffy's final fight against Zed doesn't end in your typical manner. What I mean by that is usually, Luffy ends up using some big ultimate attack and overpowering the enemy. Instead, this fight ends in practically pure silence as two battered and tired warriors pummel the hell out of each other. It is slow, hard-hitting, and surprisingly realistic, and it's really cool to see One Piece go in this direction for a change. So yeah, I'm not really sure how much more to say about this fantastic work. One Piece Film Z is in my mind the masterpiece of the One Piece movie franchise, but I would recommend to new fans that they maybe go and watch Strong World or perhaps even Film Gold before launching into this one. Every bit of familiarity with the One Piece world will enhance your experience of watching this film. And with that, we're going to go ahead and end this review. Next time on Film Friday, we will be taking a look at One Piece Film Gold, the latest feature in the franchise. In my mind, it might not be as good as Film Z, but it is pretty damn close. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, favorite, or subscribe, and please do comment with your thoughts on One Piece Film Z. This has been the Grand Line Review, and I'll see you next time.